Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Beyond Influence. I am very, very excited today. My name is Kwame Appiah. I am the head of influencer experience at Later. I am one of your hosts, and I will pass it off to our other host.
Hey, everyone. Scott Sutton, CEO of Later. Excited for the conversation. Let's dive in.
Awesome. So today we are very fortunate to be graced by a creator who is very passionate about freedom, someone who exhibits a lot of characteristics of somebody who is very determined based off of what I've seen from her so far. So I'm very excited to dive in today. Someone who definitely is persistent. And the way that we got in touch is funny because she reached out about a possible partnership. And here we are. This is the beginning steps of a beautiful partnership. Everyone welcome Linda Lee.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure, Kwame and Scott. I love Later, so I'm a huge fan. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
We love that you love Later. So glad to have you on the podcast. So it's funny, Kwame and I were talking about, your content and just, a lot of times we're talking to folks who have made their name on Instagram or TikTok and find their following. And one thing that was just so special and unique about you was you've cultivated so much of your following and such a huge following on LinkedIn. So I'm curious, take us back to the very, the inception of your LinkedIn journey. What got you started on wanting to produce content on LinkedIn?
Oh, yes, I definitely remember the roots. So I'm a college dropout and then I became a nanny, which was stigmatized in Asian community. It's just you got into this amazing 4-year university and you refuse to go and you're going to be a nanny. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? I was ashamed. My parents were ashamed. And somehow I got into corporate banking by handing out my resume door to door. And then obviously banking wasn't for me. So I quit for certain reasons. And then I was unemployed for 6 months. No one wanted to hire me because I was overqualified, underqualified, and hiring managers were so mean. They're you have no experience. This is an entry-level role, but we don't trust you. Any possible red flag you could think of. So I took a job at Whole Foods as a cashier. And then I was okay, I'm 22. I really want to make something of my life. What am I going to do? And at the time I went on LinkedIn and I just started networking with all of these recruiters. And I decided I wanted to be a recruiter too, because of how I was treated. And LinkedIn gave me the opportunity to be able to get into recruiting after constantly interviewing. And then when I finally landed my first recruiting job with no experience, and I was so grateful to the hiring manager, I decided, okay, if I'm ever laid off or fired, I need to set myself up and build a network and connections. So the goal was not to become an influencer, content creator. It was none of that. It was just to, hey, always make sure you're employed. So then I set a goal. I'm okay, I'm going to write on LinkedIn. I'm going to grow my following. And my therapist at the time was just you hate social media. You're so introverted that you don't take photos of yourself. You're not on Instagram. You don't even watch the news. Why are you on LinkedIn? So I wrote every single day for 3 months straight. And I would get 1 like. The most likes I got was 8 likes per post. And it was 3 months straight. And I just kept going. And honestly, I look back, my posts were nonsense, to be honest. And then for some reason, bam, 3 months, 1 post just went viral, hit 30,000 likes and then 1 million views. And then my following just exploded. And then I realized, okay, I found my niche. My niche is going to write about my experiences, what I've experienced from hiring managers, workplace culture, mental health, not having a college degree. And I realized people want to follow people. They don't want to follow advice, And then my posts after that just kept going viral, 10,000 likes, 20,000 likes, millions of impressions. And then I just skyrocketed from there. And then what happened was I was in a really toxic job where my director was just man, this girl is bigger than me online. I can't have that, So it was just micromanaging all of my posts. You can't write this, you can't write that. And I took a break for 6 months. So I was at 20,000 followers and then I just stopped posting. I disappeared until I quit that job. And when I quit that job, I got my new job. And at 20,000, I was I'm gonna hit 100K before the end of the year. And then I just went crazy. I started posting 3 times a day, wrote all of my experiences about a toxic work environment started growing like 20,000, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. And then within like 1 year, I hit 500,000 and then started doing influencer marketing. So that's pretty much how I got started.
Oh, that's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a story. I mean, it's funny, like introing you, I was going based off of what I saw in your LinkedIn, bio. And it really did feel to me like everything that you were speaking to was your perseverance through things, and I think I was just saying this to someone the other day is that the number one most important characteristic in successful people is not intelligence. It's not, your IQ or whatever the sake. It's your grit and your desire to persevere. And I think that you exhibit that in such a big way. And I think it's also funny that when you started doing this, and this is when people become most successful at it, you started doing it because it was something that you thought that you wanted to do. You wanted to network. You were like, I just want to write on LinkedIn. I want to meet people. I want to connect. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're writing about these connections that you are making. You are trying to create deeper connections with the conversations that you're having. And then boom, it starts resonating. And then you become kind of a big deal. It's funny, Scott and I have never really seen somebody with as large a LinkedIn following as you have. So it's kind of, it's a new thing, When did you realize as you were going through that process that you were like, oh my gosh, I could do this full time?
That's so funny. Honestly, not until 6 months ago, to be honest with you. For some reason, after 6 months ago, like I was like leaving my corporate job and I was just like, maybe it's just time to give this a shot to see what I could do. Cause I don't have like responsibilities. I don't have like a mortgage to pay. I don't have kids. I don't have debt. So I'm very thankful. And like, I believe like Steve Jobs was the person who said like, when you don't have any like liabilities or like any assets that you need to take care of, you can put yourself first and take those risks. Like, those are the moments where you want to, because I'm 25 and it was just kind of like a now or never thing, like no regrets.
I love that. It's funny. I even saw a post today and it was a guy who has like a couple million followers on Instagram. And he goes, what's your dream? What's your passion? You have a platform. Every one of my followers is going to see this. And it was a wild because people, they wouldn't take their shot and they were too afraid or they didn't want to put themselves out there. And I love your story because there's a combination of so many different things of, exposing yourself to your community and being authentic. And it's interesting because I think for things to resonate and for the content to resonate, you have to expose pieces of yourself in that. And so it's that connection of exposing myself, then writing about it. And then there's that resonance between that and then with the audience. And I'm just curious, what was that first, do you remember the first piece of content that really blew up? And I'm curious what that piece of content was about.
Oh, I remember it. It's because, so I think the universe gave me a win because that was the day I found out I had to put down my dog. So the day that I found out I had to put down my dog, my post went viral. I was just waiting in the hospital room and I was just like, this might be just a good time to write while they give me the news. It was, I had a former coworker who decided to, he got a job somewhere else. And that was when the team was just like, oh no, like we'll pay you more just to stay. It was about counter offers. And that was the post that went viral for me. And it wasn't so much like the context of the post that went viral. It was the way that I marketed it. It was a hook, story, and then the lesson. And that became very important to me to be able to write authentic stories because based on the feedback that I get from a lot of people, they're just like, everyone on LinkedIn just gives advice, about sales, recruiting, influencer marketing, but you share stories. It makes us not feel alone. And I think like at that time that trend, like quiet quitting was so popular that people just wanted like, who else is going through this? Because I need to feel heard too.
I think it's such a good lesson for folks who are trying to connect with the community. And it's funny because there's so many influencers who are talking about family life or certain experiences or certain niche sports or entertainment or whatever. And so much time of people's lives and maybe the most stress in their lives is around their work and being frustrated at work or their relationships at work. And so I do think there's this growing kind of group of creators who are really starting to, strike a chord. I think whether it's, we look at like Corp Bro and Corp Natalie who are making fun of sales and all the things that salespeople have to go to. And I think in your story, it's talking about not feeling empowered or not feeling valued or not feeling like you have opportunity. And I think those feelings are super like deep seated in individuals. And it's not a surprise that you were able to strike a chord. So really amazing. I'm curious, how much do you interact with your audience? Like, are you commenting back? Have you tried to meet people in real life? Do you do events now? I mean, how you have such a huge following, you could fill 5 stadiums with your following. But
most definitely. I've met honestly some of my best friends and lifelong friends on LinkedIn. But if I'm being really honest with you, I probably talked to the same 5 to 10 people that I have met from last year when I was like a nobody to now. Like, I'm very picky on who I allow in my life, because I've noticed it's just like, we want something, like, can you engage with our posts? Can you give us this? Can you do that? And it's like, they are just about LinkedIn. It's like LinkedIn is their life, which is totally fine. But when I build connections, I want someone to love me for me. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, I'm only her friend because she has this big following. And it's like, if I lost that following, would you still be my friend? So I'm very careful about who I allow in my life.
Yeah, I think as someone who's gone through this crazy fast journey from, normal guy to not so normal guy, I feel like that sits with me. I think like even today, I had a number reach out to me, and I saw it was from Philadelphia, and it was somebody that I used to talk to, I don't know, like 8 years ago that I haven't talked to. And then they like left a message and like said, hey, call me back. And I think about a couple months ago, I got a random text from someone who was like, hey, man, my wedding is on this day. Would you like to come? And I'm like, I haven't talked to this person in 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it is really hard to decipher. Like initially when you get into this, like, do these people really just want connection with me as a person, or is it because they want something from me, or they want to associate themselves with the fame or the audience that I have, or so whatever that could be. But I do think it's really important to establish the people that you want to spend your energy on, right? It is really, really important. Once I think at any degree, at any point in life, for anyone, it is really important to understand what relationships you want to put your energy into. But it is funny because as your audience and your following and the people who know you, as that grows in volumes, the people who want your attention grows in volumes as well. And it becomes deceptively harder to know where to narrow your focus, So I think that sits with me as well. So, as you're going through this and as you start getting a bit more virality and thinking about possibly doing this as a full-time gig, what was the first brand you thought to reach out to? And like, if that didn't work out, what ended up being your first partnership?
Yes. So the first partnership I got was actually it was pretty terrible. So I won't mention the name just to be classy. But I was at 400,000 followers before I started to monetize, and this brand reached out to me, and they were like, and at the time I was really naive, and I was like, oh, I don't really know. So it's just like, oh, like it's like a first shot, and they offered me $350 for a 400,000 following. And then I started to find out they were offering like $500 to $1,500 for people who had a quarter of my following. So they lied to me and they took advantage. But that post, I don't regret it. That post that I did for them went viral. So I was able to leverage that and start reaching out to other brands. And it's just like, hey, I don't have a lot of like experience, but look, this brand gave me a shot. I made their post go viral. The ROI was insane. I would love to partner. And I just started networking and reaching out. I don't get a lot of inbounds, which is really surprising when people are like, you don't get inbounds for your audience? Like, no, I make my own opportunities. So I took a really terrible brand, but it jump-started my career.
It's interesting. We talk with a lot of folks who are wanting to try and navigate LinkedIn. And it's funny, even LinkedIn has reached out to Later. We're working actively to help try to figure out B2B influencer with them and how they can approach it, because they've traditionally not wanted to dive too deeply into that. It is a professional network and a recruiting tool and a sales tool. And so it is interesting to hear your experience, because you have such a marketable audience and such an asset to brands and to LinkedIn for that matter. I think, the engagement that you're driving helps foster what LinkedIn is trying to do, which is build community and connect to individuals and create entertaining content. So I'm curious, as you dove through more partnerships and now as you're going, are there certain findings that if there's someone who's trying to approach this from LinkedIn, are there certain tips or tricks? I think, so many people know about Instagram and TikTok and how to navigate that world, but LinkedIn feels like this new frontier.
Yeah, most definitely. It's different. I don't use Instagram or TikTok, so it's really hard for me to compare. But what I've noticed about LinkedIn is it's really how you come across authentically. The last week, I literally reached out to, I think, 10 brands. They all got back to me. And it took some time because usually I get ghosted pretty frequently. Even if I have a huge following, that doesn't mean anything. But for me, I had to learn, okay, what can I do to prove that, for you to work with me? It's like a recruiter. You look at a resume for 10 seconds and it's just either you got it or we're moving on. And for me, I show them my analytics. I tell them about their mission, why it aligns with me. And I make it really positive. I probably use like you saw when I reached out to you, Kwame, on Later, I use 3 to 4 smiley faces. I want to make it as personable as possible. I want to give someone hey, she's not coming on too strong, but she's teasing us a little bit to ask more. I don't send any of my analytics, any of my media kit. I make it as personal as possible, and I give them room to work with me. It's like a mystery. You don't want you go on a first date, you don't want to give everything to that person,
I feel like it's goes without saying, but just being nice to people and being genuinely a good person and taking some interest in them and what they're trying to accomplish can go so far. So out there, if you're taking a different approach, maybe try being nice and enthusiastic and taking an interest in others.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that really quick, I build community in the sense where when I get partnerships, I'm really generous. I give it out to people and I refer them and they're like, oh, how much do you want for it? I'm like, I don't need any referral fees from you. This is just for free. I've had people who wanted to refer someone to me and they're like, oh, we want 50%, we want 60%. I'm like, for an email introduction, no way. So for me, I give all my referrals, my connections, to all of these creators who ask me. And I built a really substantial network where now people come back tenfold. It's hey, Linda, we're working with this partner. We want you too because of how nice you were to us. Remember when you helped us, Linda? We want to refer you to no transactional fees, nothing. We want to help you the way you helped us. So it goes a long way.
Yeah. I want to echo everything that's just been said. Be nice to people. I guarantee it'll change so much. I'll go back to a moment really quick about this. So back in the day, I used to think I was a LinkedIn influencer, right? before I was actually put on a big platform. I remember back when I lived in Portland a long time ago, I went on a date and I remember having a conversation and them asking me oh, what social networks are you really into? And I was like, yeah, I post on LinkedIn a lot. And I remember the response being, oh, so you're a LinkedIn star. And I remember that conversation because at that point in time, I had 8,000 followers on LinkedIn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Right. But seeing someone who has such a reach on LinkedIn, I noticed that the things that I would do to connect to people on LinkedIn was being genuine, being nice, being kind, having conversations. Those things tend to hold a lot of value. And when you think about the entire creator economy, that holds value all across it, right? Like you said in the beginning of it, people buy from people, people communicate with people, people work with people. And those same people are all across different networks, all across different platforms. And it may have a slight shift, right? Because On TikTok, you have people who can be a bit more aggressive in the way that they communicate. On Instagram, you can have people who are a bit more, reserved. And on LinkedIn, you can have people who are a lot more professional, but they're all still people. And so I think being kind and showing who you are and how you relate to these people is really important. Have you had any partnership that really, really resonates with you that you connected with and was like, wow, I really loved everything they let me do? And like, this was definitely my favorite partnership. You can either call their name out or you don't have to, whatever works for you.
So I think honestly, it was a tie between Notion and Gamma. The product is phenomenal. I love their product, but it was really their team that stood out for me. Like they were like the two companies that stood out the most, that gave me total freedom, total creative control. And all of my posts for them, like I think went extremely viral. Like it hit like 500,000 views, like 200,000 to 300,000 for each one. And it was because the team believed in the creators, because they are just like, hey, we're not influencers. That's why we're hiring you. So we're going to step back. Like we trust your judgment, and their products are phenomenal. Like I would highly recommend them, but it wasn't even their product that stood out or like what they paid me. It was just the team and the communication and the freedom to create for them.
That's awesome. I love Notion. It's such a good product. It's amazing how much you can do in that single application. I'm like, how did you embed a table and a task list inside this sheet connected to this thing? It's pretty awesome. So we always ask the question, I'm curious, if there was one aspirational brand, like the brand that you had your eye on, your hopes and dreams, what would that partnership look like?
Yeah.
Apart from later, of course.
Yeah. Kwame said I was special, so I can name two. Honestly, it's tied between Headspace and Hootsuite. Like those are my two dream brands. So hopefully someday.
Yeah, you're really focused on the professional space. Do you create on any other platforms? Like, do you have a TikTok out there or a LinkedIn out there that you're pretty active on? An Instagram?
Honestly, just LinkedIn. I am so scared of TikTok and Instagram. Just reading the comments off of like YouTube Shorts, it's just like people are terrifying on those platforms. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe not today, maybe someday.
Yeah, I can attest to that. For about 1 month out of 2022. I think I was the most hated man on TikTok. If I went on TikTok and typed in my name, it got very violent very quickly. So I actually stayed off of TikTok, I think, for about 6 months. So I agree with you. I think that the audience on LinkedIn is definitely one that I like to interact with more so than ever. Have you had any negative experiences yet on LinkedIn with anyone? And how did that go, and how did you navigate that?
Oh, I get hate comments all the time. Like I remember when I first started, it was all of these like middle-aged men attacking me. It's like, you're a woman, you don't belong on this platform. Like, who are you to speak? Like, you're like a child, you have no experience yet. And the sexual harassment for women was insane. Like some of the comments that I got, I was just like, okay, I'm so thankful that no one knows where I live, because it was like terrifying. And I remember like there were moments when I started, it was just like I would cry all the time at like people's comments, and it's like, get off of here, no one wants you here. But then over time I was just like, do you pay my bills? Come tell that to my face. It's so easy for you to say that behind a screen. Like, I dare you, like, come off and say that to my face. And it just got better. For me, believe it or not, I have never responded to a single hate comment. I have never reacted. I have never engaged. Anyone that says anything hateful or demeaning, I block them immediately and I just move on. I just realized there's just no room for that. And the price of creation is criticism. So you can't get one without the other. So that's my mindset. But what keeps me going is the person who reaches out. It's like, I got up today because of you. Like, you make me feel not so alone. I feel supported by you. So I hang on to those people versus the ones that don't want me on there.
Can you repeat that one more time? I'm writing that down. The price of say it again?
The price of creation is criticism.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Okay, cool.
I love it. It's wild to me. I think about LinkedIn and I just can't imagine making comments like that or putting that out into the world. And I think LinkedIn is known as a more professional space. Like things follow you. Your identity is fairly well known. Um, it's just wild to me that people and even the public comments, not even in the like messages or whatever, are putting that out into the world. I think it just shows you that those types of people exist in all parts. And I come back to this comment that you made in saying, you get these comments that say you don't belong here, or you're inexperienced, or you're a woman, you're not on the platform. And I think the lesson, or what I take away from that, is you do belong, and it is exactly you and who you are, and it's the group that you represent that hasn't had a voice or is getting this same rhetoric in the office or in life, on social network, off social network. And I think that's where you being able to tell that story, and you're a little bit of a shock absorber for the hate, being so vocal and in the public. But I think there's a huge community that does identify with you, and it's awesome, because more than just engaging with followers or creating income for yourself, I think you are empowering folks to feel heard, to feel seen, to feel validated in their experience. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, we love to see it. And it shows as well that no matter where you are, and it really speaks to what you said, like the price of creation is criticism. No matter where you're coming from in the creator journey, like for me, as someone who was granted, fortunately, a platform and had to navigate through that to figure out how I was going to in any way leverage that for, my quality of life or my purpose, whatever that case may be. From coming from that angle, even though it was given to me, I got a significant amount of criticism in anything that I did. Right. And for you, who was building it up, you got a significant amount of criticism from where you're coming from. So from any angle, as your audience and as your voice becomes amplified, you are going to receive criticism. So just like be aware and be ready for that. And if you aren't receiving hate, you're probably not doing it right. You know what I mean? Right. Like at the end of the day. Yeah. I forget what movie it was that they said this, but I believe it was They Hate Us Because They Ain't Us. Yeah. Right. Simply put. So the more you lean into who you are, the more you gain a platform, the more you leverage that, the more you empower the people who listen to you or the people who are like you. Right. And the people who may not have a voice on their own, that's when you're going to receive a lot of the voice, a lot of the negativity, because people just want something to say. They want somebody to be mad at. They want somebody to give their negative energy and attention to. So I feel you. Keep doing what you're doing. When we think about your growth and your journey, we think about some ups and some downs. Did you have a point in going through this where you almost decided to stop?
Yes, a lot of times. Honestly, March of this year, primarily this year, believe it or not, I took 3 to 4 months off this year. I went through a lot with like my family, there was like falling out with like another like close friend, or just personal things where it was just like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And it's crazy how people on social media, they idolize you for the partnerships you work with, the following you have, like the accomplishments, but they don't really see what people go through behind the scenes. And for me, I struggle a lot with mental health, and I'm a huge advocate for that. And it took months of therapy to be like, they're like, you need to get back to work. You need to get back to creating content. And I remember like speaking about this for the first time, like no one knows, is that I was triggered by LinkedIn. Like I would open the app and I would be like, I can't do it. I don't want to go back. But I'm just like, this is my stream of income. This is my creation journey. Like I worked so hard for it, and I had to work so hard in therapy to get back. And after months of like stagnancy, I started writing again. And at first it was slow and I got insecure. It was just like, oh, I'm not welcomed here anymore, because why can't I write like I used to? But then after like a month of like going back consistently, having support, all my posts started hitting like 500,000, 1 million, like all of these opportunities came, speaking engagements, brand deals. And that was after taking like months off just to take care of myself. So yeah, I really did want to give up this year, and I wasn't even sure like I wanted to come back. I didn't like get my stuff together until like the beginning of this month, to be honest.
I think it's awesome that you persisted through that you navigated that challenging time. And I imagine you came back in a space where you felt reinvigorated, you felt more equipped to take on the challenge. And, I love this theme of creation and criticism. And it's funny because I think, people can make a lot of assumptions about your motives. And I think your motives come from a genuine place. And while you're ambitious and you want to grow your audience, and there is an element, I do think, especially from talking to you, you have a genuine want and desire to connect with people and help them out. I was reflecting on the harshest criticism that I've got around putting myself out on social, ironically, was a Glassdoor review that a former employee on the way out basically said that we tried to create the podcast so that we could be cool on the internet and win internet points. And if we really were invested in growing the business, we should be focused on, what we're doing in the office. And, I think when I reflect on that, I could have stood by and said, woe is me, and kind of succumbed to that. But instead chose to, I think if you actually know me, I don't like being on camera. I don't want to be out in the public sphere. I want to go and I want to operate and do things. And, we started off with the mission of wanting to support creators and help build this ecosystem that we're a part of with Later. And it's just, I think you have to be reassured in, why are you doing this? Is it for the right motive? Are you trying to build people up? And, when you get those comments, I guess there is a perception that's out there, but at the same time, I think if you're assured of what you're trying to do, then that's ultimately what matters. So I really commend you for going through that journey and coming back stronger. And it sounds like, it really helped you out.
Yeah, sometimes we need the break to make the breakthrough,
100%. So I'm curious, as you've gone through this whole journey, are you getting back involved with any of the companies you worked for? Are you thinking about doing any speaking or getting out and, taking it offline, so to speak? And I'm curious, like, what's on the horizon for you as you look to grow your following and you look to kind of grow the community that you've built?
Most definitely. August is honestly not even here yet, and I have so many opportunities already lined up. It's insane to me. I just landed 2 of my dream brand partnerships, and I can't announce who they are yet for privacy reasons, but they're coming in August. And I never thought they would want to work with someone like me. And when I got on the call, they're just like, are you kidding me? We never thought you would want to work with someone like us. And like, it was just surreal to me. And then like an Ivy League reached out to me yesterday, and it's like, we want you to come speak on mental health. And I'm like, are you sure? I'm like a college dropout. Like, I don't even know if I should step foot on your university. But for me, it's just continuing to create authentically, because I really believe that when you act in your integrity and authenticity and passion, all of these like opportunities just align for you. I had to say goodbye to like some partnerships because they no longer aligned with me internally. And I was really scared. Like, I was making thousands of dollars like on a partnership. And I was just like, they disrespected me. And I went to therapy and I was just like, I'm really scared. Like, I've known this partnership for so long. Can I do it? And they were just like, Linda, you were successful before, during, and you will be after them. And after I said goodbye to the wrong thing, bam, all of these right things started aligning. And I'm just like, okay, like when so much good happens, it's like, you're waiting for the shoe to drop. You don't want to talk about it. You're afraid. But I'm learning that I deserve these things because I acted in my integrity.
I love that. I think there's so many, it's so transferable to other situations. I had a friend who, worked at a major company, 10 years dedicated. And then on the earnings call, they announced they're cutting their entire division, laying off 1,000 people. And it wasn't even a question of like, can we redeploy? It was like, here's your package, you're out. And, I was talking with him and I said, I think this is the moment, this is the inflection point for the next stage of your journey. And it's setting you up for what maybe you didn't want to do on your own or what you weren't ready to take the next step for. And I think so many of those steps in life, you have to take them. Some of them are given to you via negative circumstances. But I think it's how we react in those moments and how we show up and where we go from there. And, Kwame and I've talked about it. It's like those successful people are the ones who don't give up and they persist and they keep working hard. So I really like that part of your journey. And just there's so many different ways that you've shown up and kept going and persisting. It's awesome.
Yeah, it only goes up.
Of course, we love to hear that. And I think as we, start to wrap up here, we'd love to kind of open up and figure out what's next for Linda, what's going on in life, what's on the horizon.
Yeah, most definitely. So I am in stealth mode right now, and it's really funny. I don't know if you guys knew me back then, but I had a former company in March. It was for 6 months, and it was really successful, and I shut it down because I was just was in that phase. Depression is very interesting. It makes you want to just give up on everything in your life. And when I shut it down, I was just like, I don't know if I could ever build something that I could love so much again. And somewhere along the way, I found this passion. It's just like, I want to give a platform for creators to have a voice. So I'm going to open up a community where people are going to see what it's like to be able to be taught to build and be empowered authentically. And how you can quit your job, how you can monetize, but doing it based on who you are, not who people want you to be. So it's coming in August. That is my next big thing, and I'm super excited for it. Scared, but excited.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited for you. It's been amazing to hear your journey, and I think it's such an inspiration that you don't need to have the perfect, college degree. You don't need to have the perfect background. And I think there's so much power in your story and how you're connecting and relating to people. So if people want to find you, where's the best place to find you on social if they want to get in touch?
Definitely, you can find me on LinkedIn. I post there 4 to 5 times a week.
So it's just Linda Lee on LinkedIn. So It's been an amazing conversation. We're so lucky to have you. Thank you for reaching out. Hopefully this is the start of some awesome collabs with Later as well. Really excited for your journey, and we're going to be watching out for your stealth mode to come off and the next phase of the journey. So thanks everyone for tuning into the episode. For Kwame and I and Linda, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.